Thank you very much, Mr. Omar Aish. So the next presenter is Ms. Theresa Cullen, Pima County Public Health Director. Please welcome Ms. Theresa Cullen.
Now I'm here. I'm the avatar. Not really, from this morning. Didn't you love that? I love that. Hi, I'm Terry. I'm a physician practicing for a very long time. I was a Chief Medical Information Officer and a CIO, and the first AI software I developed was in 2002, so I'm revealing my age here. And I am so privileged to be back in Jordan. I have worked with Hakeem in the past and found Jordan to be an amazing opportunity. I want to start, however, by reminding people, especially if you're an innovator in the audience, that this space is wide open. Nobody has figured this out. The first speaker did allude to what happened with Watson. My very good friends were the chief medical officer for Watson during that time period. Some of the most brilliant people I know worked on Watson, and they were still unable to be successful. I think what that does reveal is the difficulties we know are occurring in AI. The other thing you should know, I'm from the United States, is every day in the US, I get notice of a new AI application, many of which fail, very few of which have specific benefit to patients and to populations. And I think that that's why we all do this. Obviously, there's a business incentive, but at the end of the day, the point is the work we're doing making a difference? So I want to show you what I want. For those of you who know Star Trek and know Dr. McCoy, this is the tricorder. This is the tricorder from Star Trek: The Next Generation. How old is this? And I still don't have it. And I have talked about wanting the tricorder for years. I used to go like this to people and go, okay, now you're going to do prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and control. Medicine is not that difficult, but it is very difficult for individuals. So for those of you who are out there, you know, the Apple Watch thought they were going to do this, the Fitbit thought they were going to do this. Nobody's done this. So just so you know, and it's pretty ugly. So if you do it, make sure it's cool, because it's not cool there. I just want to talk briefly then about what we are seeing and why we do this. You guys may be aware of the concept of the triple aim or the quadruple aim: patient care, population care, include cost control, impact the community. That's why we do artificial intelligence. And you can see there's multiple components of artificial intelligence and of medical care here. Each of these blocks present a unique opportunity in AI. And when we think about AI, what I want you to think about is, and the first speaker talked about this, the N of one. I'm the N of one. I want personalized artificial intelligence that will benefit my life. I do public health right now. COVID in the United States, as you know, we have not done very well. What I needed for that was population-driven artificial intelligence to help me figure out who was most at risk, the appropriate intervention, the appropriate treatment if and when they got diagnosed with COVID, and ultimately now what will happen with long COVID. So we've had this very unique opportunity in the last 3 years throughout the world to look at where were there opportunities for artificial intelligence to make a difference. I would argue we have failed. We have failed dismally, and that's not Jordan that has failed. That is, I'll talk about the United States. We have failed. We don't have good databases. We don't have good predictors. We don't know who we should send for monoclonal antibodies. We don't know who we should be tracking for long COVID. And if we diagnose you with long COVID, we don't know what we should do for you. So think huge opportunities. Human beings are biologic. We are life science. It is not finance. It is not zeros and ones. When I was a CIO and I was developing electronic health systems, people go, how hard can this be? It can't be that hard. You could do this overnight. No, you know, it's really, really hard because medicine is difficult and healthcare is difficult. So let me just talk briefly now about what we're talking about with machine learning and deep learning. I think there's a conceptual difference here with artificial intelligence. People that are doing robotic surgery, remember robots are, I did see that presentation this morning where I loved the robotic stuff. But right now, you know, robots aren't doing robotic surgery. A human's doing robotic surgery, guiding a robot to do it. And the reason why we're doing it is it's more precise, there's less side effects, there's less complications of that. But when we talk about AI primarily in medicine, what we're really talking about is this concept of deep learning. So it's machine learning, but it's deep learning. How do we go in and look at the database to see what the permutations are, what the differences are? And the first speaker talked about this concept of iterative. Every day we learn what's gone. The very first article that was ever published that really used AI was out of Stanford Children's Hospital, where they had a 12-year-old that had lupus. This is a New England Journal article, and they didn't know what to do with her, and she was dying. And they queried their large database, pulled out all the data they could on what was available for lupus treatment in this age group and with these complications, and made the decision of what intervention to do. They saved her life. Huge. That's what we all want to do. We're not there yet. There's certain people that can do that right now, but you can see it's really deep learning. So I want you to think it's not just connecting A to B, it's then learning from A to B. And in the next slide, what you're going to see briefly is, and I don't have time to go over all this, the lifespan for AI. And the reason why I bring this up is there's so many opportunities right now. For those of you who are involved with COVID at all, you know we were doing variant subsequencing, genomic sequencing all the time. All those numbers you hear, BA1.21, BA5, BA4, those are all different genetic sequencing of the variants of COVID. All critically important. None of us really understand what the impact of that. Other is we follow what we call epi curves, where we see data and case numbers go up and go down, but we're not really sure. But if you look through this, you see this huge opportunity exists throughout all of this. But I want to remind you, there really is a cascade in medicine. Prevention, that's where I would start, and then diagnosis, treatment, and then control. Treatment obviously sometimes does not need to control, and that's where you see morbidity and mortality. But if you look around and you look at this concept of early sentinel awareness, I'm sure you've heard that concept, that's where, how do we know the next thing that's coming? How do we pay attention to it? Where I work, just last night I got a diagnosis that we have a patient with Vibrio cholera, not something we see routinely in our community. So the issue is that just an oddball? Is that just one case? Or should I be looking at that to do some predictive analytics, to put some artificial intelligence on it? So for those of you, once again, who are entrepreneurs, I would tell you the lifespan presents multiple opportunities for you to be able to do that. And then if you're an IT person, so I'm kind of both, clinical informatics, and I love what Hakeem has done. Hakeem has made this commitment to have clinicians and healthcare people in the room. When we see AI fail, we usually see it because it has not been guided by what clinicians and healthcare workers believe is needed. Coupled with that, obviously, and I want to talk about scalability. It's really easy to do AI in a controlled environment with 20 patients and figure out what's wrong. It's whether you can develop an application that goes beyond that and can be scalable. And what you see here is this real, in a sense, a roadmap. If you're going to do good AI, what you need. And the one thing that is critical is RWD. If you look at any of in the United States, when NIH and FDA are pushing out RFPs right now, requests for proposals, they're almost all requiring RWD, that there be real-world data. Real-world data could be a large database. It could be a smaller database of people with specific problems. But the concept of using real-world data is critical. It's easy to use fake data. I've made a lot of fake databases. I love them because I can manipulate them and get what I want. But at the end, what you really want is real-world data. And the other thing that I just don't want to minimize is, medicine's messy. Data's really messy, for those of you who've worked with it. Some people use standards, some people don't. Some people think natural language processing is going to be the be-all and end-all. We've been doing LLP for 25 years. We still have not figured out how to do it. We do it better than we used to do it, but there's still huge opportunities there. And then finally, and I'm not going to spend time on this because I think the first speaker really went over this, but the one thing I would call out to you to reiterate is bias. Bias is huge in AI. We are seeing this repeatedly right now. For those of you who have ever used a pulse ox, you'll recall pulse ox has got approved, well, they're in the United States at least, they're an equipment that's approved by the FDA. We didn't do enough studies on people that have darker skin, and what we know is that a pulse ox reading in someone who's an African American can be inaccurate, and we didn't know that until COVID, when we ubiquitously distributed pulse oxes out there, and we asked people, if your pulse ox gets below X, come to the clinic. What we saw is people get in serious trouble who were some of our minority populations. So those kind of things become really important, and we need to pay attention to them. And finally, I really believe this. The future is being created now. For those who are working in this space, that tricorder is within your grasp. I don't know how to do it, but my guess is there's somebody in this room or some group of people in this room that are really smart, are going to one day come to me, and instead of having this, what I'll have is a tricorder, and I go up and down your body, and I'll know what's wrong with you, I'll make the right decisions, and what I'll be able to do is sit with you and talk with you and reassure you about your life. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present.